How's it going, Grounders? It's your boy Lieutenant Dan here, live from Orlando, Florida. You know, just chilling back here, doing my thing. Going to war for us, and the Grounders on Twitter going to war for us. In the Facebook groups, going to war for us. On Instagram, going to war for us. In the Discord, going to war for us. In the forums, that's where I am. That's what I do. What a time to be a Falcons fan, understanding that this is the time of year, the home stretch, where usually, if you were a Falcons fan, you would be looking at playoff aspirations and a long-term investment in the team for the winter. And here we are. Here we are. And there are those that doubted that we would get to this point. There are those that have doubted that this team would have the depth, would not have the depth to get to this point. And here we are. Here we are. Here is your 2018 Atlanta Falcons. And let's not, again, this is all about facts and truth, and this is about keeping the negativity away, but we got to put some things, call a spade, right? We got to call a spade a spade. And the number one thing that we have to realize as a group, or as Falcons fans in general, whether you follow this channel or not, is that the Falcons lack the depth to be able to get this done. It's the number one thing that we need to put in our minds. We need to understand this organization does not have the depth to be able to get the big things done. And I look at the Falcons Twitter, and I see people now climbing on top of each other, slinging things on the walls to advocate for their guy. You know, oh, I want Ed Oliver. Oh, I want Quentin Williams. Oh, I want Devin White. Oh, I want Greedy Williams. Oh, I want this, that, and the other from Upscare State University. Okay? Before I get into that, I want to go into the chat because it's more important for me as a channel, YouTube channel, and as a content creator to go in and talk to my fans. It's more important to discuss things with my fans and go discuss things with the Grounders. So let's check it out. Lenore Designs, good to see you in the chat, my dude. Mark Hill, Nick is in the building. Good to see you, buddy. Hal Snipes, Raichu for the win. Deranged Donut is in the building. Cedric Britton. Andrew Gonzalez. Good to see all of you guys. Really appreciate you guys coming in here. Hit that like button. Definitely hit a like on this video. It's going to be a lot of fun. So like I said, I was going to war for you guys. I was going to war for you guys not to advocate my guy. Okay? Not advocating for my guy. I don't have a guy. I don't have a guy. YM OF Jamal 05. Rise up, man. Good to see you, buddy. Stay grounded. And by the way, Mark Hill from the UK. Thank you for listening in the UK. Good evening to you, sir. I really appreciate you coming in here and listening to this Falcons talk. Mr. Beasley, good to see you. But let's get straight to it. I went to war for you guys on Twitter this morning. You know why? Because I'm not advocating for one guy, okay? There are those out there saying they want Greedy, and they want Devin White, and they want Ed Oliver, and they want this, that, and the other. Rashawn Gary, they want Cleveland Farrell, they want this, that, and the other. And if you listen to anything that I said last night on Vosh Lombardi's 30K celebration, if you listen to any of that last night, you already know my thoughts on most of the players of this draft class, and the fact that I am not too keen that we're up here at the top of the draft. I am not happy that we're here. because there's too much at stake. I think Aaron Freeman and I discussing this morning the best moves, the best possible ideas for this team came to the same conclusion that whether you take East 37th Street or you take, 101 North in the Turnpike, trying to get to the same location, you still have to come down to the same solution, which is this defensive line is garbage. And it's got role players on it. It has guys like Tack and Grady and Sanat. But once you get outside of those names, things begin to get unclear. Crawford only has 1 year left on his contract. Brooks Reed has been a name that most in here as Grounders or as Falcons fans who are just checking in on this channel, haven't subscribed to the channel yet, they're upset with Brooks Reed. Derek Shelby has been an injury-prone shell of himself. Robert McClain has just been a big body. That's about it. Rose Stackson, good to see you in here. Cardi, good to see you in here. Rise up to both of you guys. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's just facts and truth. This isn't anything that's that's a hot take. That's just the facts. Outside of the three guys that I mentioned, everyone else has been a supporting cast player. Steven Means was in here for a little while, didn't do much. Vic Beasley yesterday picked up a strip sack from Grady Jarrett, took it into the end zone, almost didn't make it there. That's been the highlight of his year. That's been the highlight of his year. He had a 2-sack game, but it was very, The highlight of his year has been picking up that fumble recovery and taking it into the end zone. That's been his best part of the year. That's terrible. That doesn't wash away any of the other mistakes that he's had. And I like Vic Beasley. I want him to be on this team. But, gosh darn. Let's think about that for a second. This guy was a first-round pick. He's supposed to be here for 5+ years. He's barely going to get out of his rookie deal. So here we sit. Aaron Freeman is, that Aaron Freeman and I, we bicker. Neither one of us are wrong in our thoughts or ideas because it's plain to see the defensive line and offensive line need to be addressed, and everything else is secondary at this point. The Falcons can't get cute when they're up in the top of the draft here. They have to pick the best available player that works for their needs. And that is defensive line from the strong side defensive end spot over. And I think everyone in the chat can agree, all in unison, that if we go defensive line with the talent that's in this draft, with our first pick, no one's going to be unhappy. But when you start flinging names, when you start saying names, whether it be Oliver, or it be Wilkins, or it be Quentin Williams, or it be Lawrence, or it be Gary, or Farrell, then that's when people start bickering. Then that's when people start going, well, I think this guy's a little more talented than that guy. I think this guy's going to give us a better opportunity to do what we need to do. And I said it on the show last night. If the Falcons want to fix this, they need to start in the interior and go outside. Thank God free agency starts first before the draft, because then we'll get a very, very good idea about what the Falcons are wanting to do. We will get a very clear idea of what the Falcons' thought process is to fix this defensive line and who the key contributors are going to be going forward. That is where we sit right now. So when I went to war this morning, it was kind of a battle. But I went to war this morning and I said, I see people having us take Ed Oliver in the first round, and I just don't feel that that is the right way to go. That's just my opinion. I feel that a more athletic defensive tackle would be the better solution, but thank God, again, free agency happens first so we can see how we address that. Because if we go out into free agency and we go get veteran defensive ends, then all the narratives change very quick. If the Falcons go get cheap defensive tackles, then we know exactly where the Falcons are going. They're going defensive end in the first round. James C. Overton III, what's going on, my man? Rise up, stay grounded. Good to see you in the chat. But you get what I'm saying. The Falcons will show us exactly what they're doing, but let's recap what happened yesterday. The Falcons on the interior were destroyed. The strong side defensive end position showed us exactly what was happening. It was bad. I was talking to Matt today from I believe it's the Falcons Wire, and he was talking about the Falcons addressing a linebacker in this draft. Coach Evans is in the building. Would everybody please, by all means, say hi to Coach Evans? He is a huge Ravens fan, and he was very, very nice yesterday. And I've yet to have him on the show. I want to have him on the show and talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson and what he thinks he can do going forward. So that is one of the guys that I want to have on the show later. So definitely go say hi to Coach Evans. He's a cool cat. But yesterday, the interior of the defensive line and the strong side defensive ends, when we were playing base defense at a 43 under, were destroyed. And Deion Jones, yeah, he had a sack yesterday. He pushed a guy out of bounds behind the line. Yes, yesterday Deion Jones looked rusty, but we needed him more than anything because it actually shored up our linebackers. Our linebackers actually looked like they knew what they were doing, slightly. But you can tell that it's still a broken mirror. It can never be truly replaced or fixed. It's been a shell of itself since the beginning. We get a brand new mirror next year with new defensive tackles and new defensive ends, new linebackers, new safeties, new corners. All of this will be addressed. So I sit back and I go, what's the major issue with yesterday's game? And I was talking to Rio Patman this morning. Go check out his stuff on ungrShow.com, where he writes and does articles, puts up graphs, talks about all kinds of stuff there. But I was talking to him yesterday, and Mad Mike Sports, go check out his channel as well on YouTube. He's an up-and-comer. And we were talking about, look at this O-line. And the correlation between Calvin Ridley's success and Sarkisian's success. And all of you guys listen to this because this is very, very interesting. When Calvin Ridley's having a bad game, Sarkisian's having a bad game as well. When Calvin Ridley's having a bad game, suddenly Sarkisian is having a bad game. He can't call anything. He starts trying to expose the edges even if it's not working. He runs outside zone even if it's not working. The success of Steve Sarkisian has run through Calvin Ridley. And that success has been limited. That success has been limited from Calvin Ridley because of rookie mistakes, dropping balls, getting hit right in the chest at 92 miles per hour, and not being able to catch it. And Calvin Ridley also can't get the ball because Matt Ryan is under pressure 90% of the time. Good to see Brazilian X Skills. And Burton VDP, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you guys. Rise up, stay grounded. Good to see everybody in here. Hit that like button, guys. But think about that. The success of the Atlanta Falcons offense has been predicated all on Calvin Ridley. When Calvin Ridley's having a bad game, Sarkisian's having a bad game because he runs everything through Calvin Ridley. It's not through Julio Jones. It's not through Mohamed Sanu. It's not through Austin Hooper. It's not through the running backs. Everything is run through Calvin Ridley. The success of the offense is run through Calvin Ridley, and Calvin Ridley just has too much on his shoulders. He's trying to do too much. Isn't that absolutely crazy? Go back and watch some of the games. When Calvin Ridley's having a good game, Sarkisian suddenly is rolling. The running game is rolling. The passing game is rolling. Multiple wide receivers are going off during the day. Everybody's getting the ball. But when Calvin Ridley suffers, when he's not catching the ball, when Matt Ryan and that offensive line cannot get things going, Sarkisian suddenly crumbles like a flan in a cupboard. Sarkisian fails and reverts back to 2017, where he's conservative, soft, easy to read. And then the Ravens did something incredible yesterday. Something that every team has done to us, but they did it on a much larger scale. They said, these two guards are turnstiles. Let's dial up the blitz. Matt Ryan at the very beginning of the game called a timeout because he said, oh my God, here comes a blitz. Off the edge that can't be protected because Ryan Schrader is also regressing. Digressing. What am I talking about? Regressing. Ryan Schrader has gone from superhero to friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Ryan Schrader has gone from I'm goddamn Iron Man to I'm the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the one that takes care of like cats in a tree and whatnot. Not the Spider-Man that joined the Avengers or Spider-Man that stopped Venom or Spider-Man that went out there and stopped Dr. Octopus. No. Ryan Schrader is now almost just a regular bystander on this offense. He is being overpowered. And athletes are giving him fits. And add the problem that Zane Bettles did not help yesterday. And Ben Garland has not helped. And Wes Schweitzer is also a turnstile. And that makes me feel bad for Alex Mack. Yesterday, Jake Matthews was so lost, he was playing on the opposite side for some reason. There were times where I saw Jake Matthews running from the left-hand side to the right-hand side to make a block to save Ryan Schrader's ass. That was insane. Wow. Most of the game, the Ravens said, fuck it. We dare the Falcons to try to throw the ball. That's exactly what happened. Most of the time, the Ravens were just right in Ryan's face, right up the middle of the offensive line. And the Ravens did the exact same thing, too, in the defensive line. They ran outside power options with Lamar Jackson. And then when we went back to base personnel, they ran it right up the middle. They knew us from the moment that we stepped on the field to the moment that that game ended, the last whistle. The Ravens knew exactly what we were doing. So Sarkisian's inability to adjust with a bad offensive line and all the success being predicated on what Calvin Ridley can do, not Mohamed Sanu, not Austin Hooper, not Julio Jones, none of those guys, Calvin Ridley, has limited this offense to being maybe 2017. Maybe. That's about it. So, of course, everybody in here starts getting on the train. Fire Sark. Get him out of here. He needs to go. And I don't blame you because the facts remain. Even with a good offense, even with a good offensive line, he was struggling to make play calls until Calvin Ridley started to get hot. So it's about time to put on our big boy pants now. If I'm a Falcons fan, I'm definitely looking at some offensive coordinators. I'm not looking at Mike McCarthy. I'm not looking at Mike McCarthy. I don't want anything to do with that. Even though that's a political battle in Green Bay that had nothing really to do with Mike McCarthy as a coach. That had everything to do with Aaron Rodgers most likely saying to his GM, I'm done with this. And McCarthy going, I look, this GM right now, we just fired a GM. We just got a new GM, and he's not making a difference. We've just had no time to be able to get this done. At least he can hang his hat and say, hey, we got a Super Bowl. We got a Super Bowl while I was here. That's all that matters. I got a Super Bowl. I'm a Super Bowl winning coach. That's all that matters. So, of course, plenty of people in here are going to start saying, oh, you know what? Gary Kubiak. It's time for Gary Kubiak. I say, before we start thinking about an offensive coordinator, let's just look at the problems at hand. Desmond Trufant's, these are things, by the way, that all Falcons fans, all 31 people in here that are watching this right now need to understand. Gary Kubiak, before we start thinking about any offensive coordinators, we need to think about what's going on right now with this team, defensively and offensively. The offense right now is down at least Brandon Fusco, which would have changed a lot of things going on at this very point in time. That would have fixed a lot of the problems at hand. Wes Schweitzer, Ben Garland, Zane Bettles, these are not the answers right now. We just don't have time to experiment. So the best offensive lineman that you can field every game from this point on, from the Packers game all the way to the Carolina and Bucs games at the very end of the season, we need to just field the best offensive lineman that we have. And then when Fusco comes back, at least we know that we have a starting right guard in Brandon Fusco for next year. That's the first problem that we need to address, that we need to put in our minds, and we need to understand the offensive line needs upgrades, whether it be through free agency, which is most likely where the Falcons will go, or through the draft, where there are plenty of guys that play the same scheme that we are asking offensive linemen to play, and they're available from rounds 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? When Brandon Fusco was here, our pass protection and our run blocking was great. Then he got injured. Then everything went to shit. In fact, actually, if Andy Levitre and Brandon Fusco were here, this offensive line wouldn't be so bad. It wouldn't be Wes Schweitzer and Ben Garland bad. We know that much. It would be average at best. Which average is something that you would ask for right now. You want an average offensive line at least. So the first problem right there, the guards right now are a terrible, terrible problem. Second problem, still in the offensive line, Ryan Schrader, keep or trash. Keep or trash. I would say that better guard play would elevate his play, but then I've seen him get physically dominated by a Ravens player today, or yesterday. Well, today too. I watched some tape. When you're physically dominated by someone, it's about time you start kind of thinking about replacements. So, 2 guards and a tackle. How much longer does Mack have here? I don't want to make Falcons fans panic, but think about it. How much longer does Alex Mack have here? How much longer does he want to be here? The center position will have to have somebody coming in soon. And we're going to have to go get ourselves another veteran center. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year. I don't know if it's going to be the year after. But we're going to have to address this sooner than later. The more time that we pretend that this is going to be okay, the more time that we live in a fake reality. The reality of the situation right now is that this offensive line is getting older and it doesn't have the tools. And we will waste Matt Ryan's time if we do not retool it with some of the best guys that we can get. Whether they be young from the draft or they be experienced from free agency. We must retool this line. That's something that the new offensive coordinator, if Sark goes, will have to figure out. He'll bring in his guys, obviously. Let's get to this next problem here, and let's switch to the defense. Desmond Trufant's not going anywhere. Everybody needs to stop talking about Desmond Trufant taking a pay cut. He's not going to do it. That we need to trade him. There's too much dead money if we try to trade him. So he's stuck at CB1. That is your CB1. We'll have to live with it in 2019. We'll have to live with it in 2020. That's just the facts. It's a bad contract. It was a bad move by the Falcons. We have to live with it now. Maybe Trufant can elevate his play. I'm not so sure. I think a lot of other Falcons writers, analysts will probably agree with me right now that it's not a great situation, especially with Robert Alford most likely getting moved, which is the next point of emphasis that we need to talk about. Robert Alford, right now, not the solution. And Isaiah Oliver, from this point on, should be playing. Too late to be living by the sword and dying by the sword. We can't afford it. So Isaiah Oliver must be in this lineup going forward as the new CB2, as the left outside corner. We know that this Brian Poole experiment is probably done. And we cannot put a $3 million second-round tender on him next year just to try to protect him. It's just not smart. It's not smart money management. So understanding that from the DB side, you know that the nickel corner is going to have to be addressed. You're not going to address that early. Nickel corners come, nickel corners go. The Falcons are going to have to address that. The Falcons most likely will also have to address the situation going on with Damontae Kazee and Ricardo Allen. This is the next point that I want to make. The situation at free safety right now is that Damontae Kazee is bored playing free safety. He's a good free safety. And I saw somebody say that Damontae Kazee can't tackle. You must be out of your mind. You must be smoking something. Because Damontae Kazee can tackle, he can hit, he can cover. But with all the other moving pieces right now that are not working, it's making his life a living hell. He would much rather be at nickel corner right now trying to cover one-on-one than to be sitting back there doing nothing. Which brings up the situation. Does Damontae Kazee play nickel corner for you for next season? And switches in and out with Ricardo Allen at free safety, who will most likely be coming back to be playing free safety? Or do you go into the draft and you go find a new free safety because you know that this is the end of Ricardo Allen? It's a good question, and it's something that we should debate and have a think tank on and really discuss over the next couple of months. It's got to be fun to figure that out. We have Niesman as our backup strong safety right now. He's doing the best that he possibly can. Keanu Neal will be coming back. Hopefully he's healthy. But if he's not, we have to think about that strong safety position right now. It's a clusterfuck. I know. It's a cluster. All of us know it. But right now, you hope that Neal comes back. You hope that Niesman can take up the back end. And you pray to God that you don't have to address that situation again, because that is a huge part of it. Now, put into perspective as we go down the list now, that Deion Jones coming back and being rusty was more than enough that we needed to be able to elevate the linebackers. And if Campbell, Deion, Duke, and Olakun are your linebackers for next year, then you should be okay. That's good enough, but that's not great. So a real question that every Falcons fan should be asking right now is, should we be looking at Devin White? Even though the 49ers hold the number 1 pick right now and would most likely love to drop one or two spots total, and grab themselves Devin White to replace Reuben Foster. Can we afford to go first round and take a linebacker? I think not. I think that is a terrible, terrible, terrible move. Because you're not addressing the D-line, and that is more important than anything. Whether you address it with a defensive end or a defensive tackle is almost irrelevant at this point. You need to take some of the best players and the best talent. That's when the nitpicking comes in. That's when people start saying, I want this guy, I want that guy. But the draft class has panned out to where the Falcons will get a solid defensive lineman in the first round. So my linebackers right now are Campbell on his last year of his deal, Dion most likely signing a deal next year, Duke and Olakun. That's who you're rolling with next year. Duke will be better. Olakun will be better. And maybe you go into the late rounds and go get yourself another linebacker that can play Sam. Because that's where Olakun and Duke are playing right now. They're playing Sam. Or, well, Devondre Campbell too, but it's a weird cluster. I don't want to go into that conversation right now trying to figure out where the linebackers play. You've got Dion probably playing Will at this point, which means you might need a Mike. You might need a Mike linebacker. Some people are saying that, oh, Keanu's the Mike linebacker. I saw him playing Will a lot yesterday. He was literally covering running backs. He was covering the running backs. He was the one knifing, and he was the last line of defense. That was Deion Jones yesterday. And now let's concentrate on the biggest part of this before I get into the OCs, because it changes everything depending on the OC that you go grab. And especially the coaching situation with Arthur Blank saying yesterday that he believes in Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn and that they're going to evaluate the talent and put the best guys on the field. Because Arthur Blank knows that this is his best opportunity to try to get back into the playoffs, back to the Super Bowl again. Because Dan Quinn's building a defense, even though none of them have been top 15, I believe. And none of them have been so good that they're dominating the league. But that's a story that I've already told many, many times about Mike Smith leaving us nothing. And us having to build very awkwardly per what we had at the time. So, with this draft season going to be extra crazy, and this free agency going to be extra crazy, you look at the defensive line and you go, is Crawford here for the long term? He's only got 1 year on his contract. Is Shelby here? No, he's going to be a free agent. Is Brooks Reed here? He's got 1 year left on his contract. Do you keep him? Probably not. McLean's a free agent. Steven Means probably won't be here. Bruce Irvin right now, only that 1 year deal. Does he come back? Does he retire? Vic Beasley's definitely not getting paid $12 million per year. And I would be incredibly surprised if they paid him more than $10 million. And Vic Beasley's going to, again, I've said this many, many times, he's going to lean heavily on that 15.5 sack season. He's going to lean heavily on the production that he had this year. And it's more likely that the Falcons move Vic Beasley than they keep Vic Beasley, even though I would love to keep Vic. He just doesn't have the pass rush arsenal. He has not been productive. And people try to blame the rest of the defensive line for his lack of production. He's been beat by tight ends, fam. He's been beat by running backs. He's been beat by backup right tackles. That's bad. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. That's a negative, not a positive. What's going on, Joe? Good to see you in here. Good to see everybody in the chat. I hope everybody's having a wonderful time. Please hit that like button. Hit that notification below. Please go and sub to this channel. We're building something crazy here, and I hope that everybody loves it. But you need to get what you can out of Vic, and knowing that you're losing 3 defensive ends, maybe 4 if Bruce Irvin doesn't re-sign with us, if we can't bring him back, and 2 defensive tackles, leaving only Crawford, Sanat, and Grady, and you don't even know if you're going to keep Crawford. That leaves you with Tack, Grady, and Sanat. That's not a good look, fam. That's not a good look. That's a bad look. That's a really bad look. That's a terrible look. I don't care who you are. As an analyst for the Falcons, a writer for the Falcons, a podcaster for the Falcons, a YouTube channel creator for the Falcons, you all know that that's a terrible look. That's awful. That's a really, really bad look. So I'm sitting here saying to myself, once your new OC comes in here, if you do go get an OC, because here's the problem. If Dan Quinn believes in Sark, that it's the pieces there, not Sarkisian, things are going to get real wonky for this fan base. 100% feel that it's going to get real wonky. But if you do bring in a new OC and that OC is demanding new offensive linemen, some moves here and there depending on the offensive talent that he wants to keep, everything else must go to defense. And we've been doing this for several years now. And we've been in a rebuild since 2015. Got our expectations sky high when we went to the Super Bowl and thought that we were one step away from going to a championship again. When really, in reality, we were looking at a team that had no depth and was kidding themselves thinking that they could add low, cheap free agents, low-price free agents to this organization and get by. You can't get by on cheap free agents thinking that that's going to get you done. That's going to take you down the road that you need to have for success. You can't get by thinking that this is going to be what it's going to take to get us to a Super Bowl. That's just not how that works. You can't expect gold from a silver mine. You can't just get diamonds from a ruby mine. If you go to an Apple store, you're getting an apple. If you go to an Android store, you're getting an Android, not an Apple. You get what I'm saying? Did I get through to everyone? You can't expect low, cheap free agents to suddenly just, boom, explode, and they're the greatest thing ever. They're low, cheap free agents because they're low, cheap free agents. That nobody else really wants them. You can try to elevate their play. You can try to make them better. But a higher percentage of the time, you're going to get what you paid for. You're going to get what you paid for. So that's why I'm making the point with the draft. You are drafting to bring in talent that value of draft pick should be compensated properly. So if you are drafting Ed Oliver high, which people are still, by the way, tweeting at me that Ed Oliver is 290 pounds, when I'm seeing through the Draft Network and I'm seeing through all the college sites that he's 280, 285, and then I'm hearing rumblings of 275, which throws a red flag for me. And when myself and Vash Lombardi are saying that he does not have direction when he attacks, he's flashy, he's fun to watch, but he's not getting to the play every time, and he's beating up on scrubs. That's what we're trying to get to. That why in the world would we want to draft him? Now, everyone has their opinion, and everybody's seen the tape, so everybody will have a different view of something. But I'm saying the safer bet is to take a defensive tackle in this draft. Again, we haven't hit free agency yet, so we don't know how this is going to shake out. But my opinion is we need to get bigger, not smaller. So we can't expect to go into free agency, pay for what we're getting, obviously, unless we overpay some free agents in draft in the free agent period. And then go into the draft and get guys that are not polished at their position, or rumors or rumblings of 275-pound defensive tackles being played at nose tackle and dominating certain talent. That's not the way that you draft properly. Now, look, I compared it, and this is the comparison. I don't like comparing these guys like this, but other people have said it too. Ed Oliver is Michael Bennett or Jadeveon Clowney. I don't like making comparisons because usually those people aren't what you say they are. But this is what I've heard. This is the comparisons I'm seeing. This is what people are saying right now. Ed Oliver has a lack of direction, most likely a same path as Jadeveon Clowney or as a Michael Bennett. That means that he will produce, but you're still leaving the base defense in a bad spot. So I'm sitting here, fan extraordinaire, good to see you. Aaron Blue, good to see you, buddy. Sean Long, good to see you in here as well. She Jr., 33, good to see you, buddy. Rise up. But I'm sitting here going, there are multiple ways to attack this through free agency. There's multiple ways to go into the draft. But what's the safest, surest way? And right now, for right now, maybe I'll change my mind in a couple of months. I'm allowed to do that. But maybe in a couple of months, depending on what happens in free agency, depending on what the Falcons do right now, because it's really early to be talking about this, but of course, we're at the top of the draft, so we have to be talking about it, right? That's the content, right? Depending on what we do through free agency and whatnot, and whether or not I change my mind a few months later, we might be, going after edge rushers, going after guys in the draft that have that athletic freaking ability, and getting a complementary piece like an Ed Oliver to be our Michael Bennett, which is fine. I don't have any problem with that. If Oliver is drafted and we've taken care of the defensive tackles, fine. But then don't come to me and tell me that a cheap free agent defensive tackle, if we go cheap, is going to make things better with Ed Oliver here. That's wishing. And especially if he goes to the combine, Ed Oliver, and he is not even near 290. He's not even near 290. And he's more near the 175, or excuse me, the 275, 280 range. I would put those question marks on there, and I would say if we haven't addressed defensive tackle yet, we addressed other needs on this team, I'd look at this and I'd go, maybe I don't want to draft Ed Oliver. Maybe I do want to draft a defensive tackle instead. People are saying that Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence are nose tackles, that they're not athletic enough. I think people are just saying that because other people have said that. I think there's a lot of people that have not watched film and tape and they say they are. I think people have watched highlights more than they have watched actual tape and sat down and done hours of film breakdowns. That's where I think we're at this point. And a few months later, I'm going to probably see a few people change their minds. My mind's not going to change on this defensive tackle class. It's going to be the same. But my mind has not been made up on the defensive end class, which I put Ed Oliver as a defensive end first and as a defensive tackle second. Because I believe that disruption and power can be used, that athleticism can be used as a defensive end, especially as a 270 or higher defensive end. But I'm looking for the Red Bryant of the group. I'm looking for a big hog molly with athleticism. I'm looking for someone that can tear up the middle of the field, not just holding blocks. Because when somebody thinks of someone 300 or more pounds, they think about them holding blocks. Not just thinking about that. Thinking about athletic freaks. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Quinn Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Jeffrey Simmons. Those are the four that I would target before I target anyone else if you're going after a defensive tackle. I would target those four. Those are the four horsemen. Famine, death, plague, whatever the other fourth horseman of the apocalypse is. Those are the four that I would go after. I would go after any one of those four before I go after any other defensive ends if we have not addressed the position, and that's where we sit right now. We don't know where the Falcons are going to start addressing things in free agency first, so this is all conjecture. This is all guessing at this point. And that's why I think that when guys like the Falcoholic or guys like Aaron Freeman, who, by the way, I hold in high regard, his opinion is good. I mean, I say he's wrong a lot, but I mean, that's because we just have differing opinions on how to build a team. But when those guys start advocating for Ed Oliver, I go, well, wait until we figure out what we're going to do with the defensive tackles first, or what we address in free agency. Because if we address defensive ends in free agency, like, oh, I don't know, what, Pat, man, like Calais Campbell? Huge shout out to Mad Mike Sports, who has just hit 1K subs. Thank you so much, man, for following us and being here. Mad Mike, you the best, man. You seriously. We're going to have him on the show tonight. We're going to talk about this Ravens game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good shit. You know, you could go get a Dante Fowler Jr. What if we address that? We address the Vic Beasley loss with a Dante Fowler Jr. addition. Wonder how much he would go for on the free agent market. I know we're going to have some cap room. I don't know how much cap room we're going to have. Paying Julio, paying Grady, probably paying Dion. I don't know how much money we're really going to have. And I'm not going to guess one way or the other that we're going to have no cap room. Or, oh, we're going to have all the cap room in the world to be able to sign whoever we want. That's probably not true. Either way, by the way. Either crazy pendulum direction that you go with no cap or all the cap in the world is probably going to meet somewhere in the middle. We're going to have some cap. So let's wait before we start getting into this discussion of, oh my God, we need Ed Oliver right now because the pass rush. Bruh, we're ranked 27th in run defense, and we're ranked 26th in pass rush. Okay? That's where we're ranked. In pass defense, which counts for pass rush, we're ranked 26th. We're ranked 27th in run defense. I'm just saying, man. Cardi in here saying that everybody's focusing on the D-line and forgetting about our corners. There is nothing that we can do about our corners. The Trufant is locked in until 2021. Oliver is most likely the next starter up unless they believe in Alfred to play out his contract. And then Poole is most likely going to either be retained with a second-round tender, or he's going to get cut and we're going to go after another nickel corner. It's that plain and simple. Adding Greedy Williams, adding the kid from Penn State, adding DeAndre Baker, adding any of these corners is not going to change the situation right now with what's going on in D-line. So I don't need to hear it. Don't need to hear that. It's absolutely insane. This is a D-line and O-line focused draft with a sprinkle of linebackers, with a sprinkle of offensive weapons, with a sprinkle of talent here and there on special teams to get this team back to where it's not a bad stew. There's an old book, an old children's book called Mean Stew. And the entire stew is just made of ingredients like water, pepper, yelling at the pot. And that's what I feel like Falcons fans are trying to make. Mean stew. Screaming, throwing garlic in there, all the angry, unnecessary things to make this better when it's plain and simple. Fix the O-line, fix the D-line, everything else will start to iron out. And that's where we're sitting. That's where we're sitting right at this very moment. So people adding me about weights and claims, all I have is what I've heard and what I've seen. All I have is the film that I have broken down and will most likely be posting from the end of December into January, into February, into March. All I can tell you is that I'm spending day after day going over the film over and over and over and making write-ups, making observations. And the observations up to this point is that Ed Oliver's a defensive end, and there are 4 horsemen in this draft that I would have before I take an Ed Oliver, but that's only if we've already addressed the defensive tackle positions. That's only if that happens. But that's just the facts and the truth. That's just the facts and the truth. And I like how the same people continue to ask the same questions over and over again and continue to ask me about things like Andy Levitri or Brandon Fusco or, oh my God, Trufant. When the writing is on there, you can literally type in their name, look at their contract on Spot Rack or Sport Rack or whatever it's called, and see that there are a bunch of guys that are going to be leaving because they're going to free agency because they don't have any more contract with the team. And on the other side of it, there are a lot of guys on this team that are going to need contracts soon that are key contributors to this team. Last but not least, before we get out of here and I answer any other questions that are going on in the chat, and I go over to Twitch and play some video games and talk with you guys on some of this stuff. But this is the final thing I want to talk about before I get out of here. And I talk to you guys a little bit about some of the questions you have. No one bring up Devontae Freeman. If you are talking about Devontae Freeman would have made this better, you're part of the problem with Falcons social media. You're one of the problems with the fan base. If you are saying that Devontae Freeman would have made things better because he's more shifty and he's this and he's that, if you are saying anything about Devontae Freeman as a man that's literally sitting on his couch right now and doing rehab, if you are saying anything about Devontae Freeman, you are a joke. No running back, not even the best ones in this league, could have run behind this offensive line and the way that Sarkisian is using his guys. Coleman looked so good early on. Now he looks like garbage because his offensive line is trash and Sark doesn't know how to use his players properly. He does not know how to change things. He would have probably got Freeman more hurt. That's a fact, by the way. That's a fact, by the way. Devontae Freeman and his running style probably would have gotten himself even more injured with Sark calling crap plays and forcing the ball into his hands 20 times a game because you got to lean on Freeman, right? I love Devontae Freeman and his running style. I want him to be part of this team, but the more that he continues to hurt himself and the more that we give Sark opportunities, the worse this is going to get. So do not bring up someone that has no point in being brought up, since he's on injury reserve, he's sitting on the couch, he's rehabbing. Do not bring him up in conversations when we have to focus on what the best out of Ito Smith can happen and what we can do with Tevin Coleman right now. I don't want to live in a fantasy world. I want to live in reality. And reality states that Devontae Freeman's not here, so I can't care about whether or not Devontae Freeman could have been here or can't be here. He's not here, period. And that's that. That's the facts. That's the truth. That's the bar. And with Coleman getting run into the ground and just absolutely getting trashed on, because man, Sarkisian, and man, Tevin Coleman, who can't get off a block, by the way. So it goes hand in hand, by the way. This ain't just a pity party for Coleman. This is straight facts. Tevin Coleman is averaging like 1.3 yards after contact. So Coleman is not being used properly, and he's not being effective on his own. And Ito Smith is literally Freeman light. He's not Freeman. He's Freeman light. And while we'll see some flash plays from him here and flash play from him there, this offensive line's not giving him any opportunities either. He had the biggest run of the day yesterday. The biggest run of the day for the Falcons. And still, we forced things to Coleman and we forced things to Ito with an offensive line they couldn't block because the Ravens were sitting there with 8 people in the box most of the day. Creativity and how to use your players properly is all part of the process. All part of the process. All goes hand in hand. All goes hand in hand. So, for those of you that have been on the train about, get Sark out of here, get Sark out of here, I've purchased my ticket at the train station. I ain't getting on that train until it happens. I've purchased my ticket for the Get Sark Out of Atlanta train. Everybody in here, that's everyone in here that's part of that train, that trip to a new offensive coordinator, please raise a hand or say hell yeah, because I purchased my ticket, but I have not stepped onto that train yet. I want to watch the rest of this year play out and get a refund if things are okay. If things are not okay, then I'm with y'all. I'm with the people that want Sark out. I've got the ticket. I haven't gotten onto the train yet. I haven't given it to the conductor, and I haven't had him punch my ticket yet. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Give me a hell yeah. It's kind of how I feel. So, answering some questions, I saw a couple people throw some questions down. Verdon VDP said, question, honestly, other than looking like a hot mess, did our D hold the Ravens fairly well? For what it's worth, the defense was the shining example yesterday of good Falcons football, and we were still getting scored on. The worst part was the offense. Anemic would be a good word for the offense. They looked like a calf, like a cow that had not been fed any food. Bare bones, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what the Falcons offense looked like. Bare bones. Type in spooky skeletons YouTube video. That's exactly the Falcons yesterday. Spooky, scary skeletons. Go type that in. The Skeleton Dance by Walt Disney. Go type that in. You'll see exactly the Atlanta Falcons, what they looked like yesterday. But the defense was playing hard, but just wasn't effective. The interior of the line was bad, And you could tell that a rusty Deion Jones was just definitely not what we needed. So now, this coming week, we have to play against the Packers. And the Packers have just fired their head coach. Let's see if things turn around for the Packers, and let's see if we can probably sneak one win in. Because if we do, then the Ed Oliver talk begins to get a little quieter. That's not what I want. But again, like I said, we have 4 games left to play. There's so much that this could shake out. We could go 8-8. We could be 8-8 at the end of this process, winning against the Panthers, the Cards, the Packs, and the Bucks. And go 8-8, and then we're picking somewhere in the teens, and then we all have to just shut the fuck up. That could be where we are, right? You know? That's what we could be at. And you know that Dan Quinn's not just going to sit Matt Ryan, right? Like, I was laughing. I was laughing yesterday, right? I think a lot of you guys tuned into the game yesterday, to the live stream. I was just laughing. I don't think there was a time where I looked like I was depressed. I was just laughing so hard because I was just like, this is like a clown show. This is like a clown show. We should have Matt Schaub out here throwing balls. At least it wouldn't be Matt Ryan, you know? Like, protect your quarterback. What's the point? But oh well. Is what it is. Hey, Dan, would you take Wilkins or Ed Oliver in this draft this coming year? Bruh, like I just said this whole time, JY, good to see you in here. Thank you for the question. Like I said at the beginning of this and through most of this, I said that if the Falcons address the defensive tackle position in free agency, then I don't have any problem with taking Ed Oliver. That's fine. He's a project. He is a project player. I've said it on Twitter. I don't want a project player. But, you know, it would be great to have Ed Oliver. I think that he will bring a violent nature to the Falcons. But again, that's only if we address the defensive tackle position with veterans that are capable. They're not just cheap. But if we don't address the defensive tackle position, then you know exactly where the Falcons are going. And you can shoot your Ed Oliver dreams out the door. Kick them right out. Because then you know that we'll be going after Quentin Williams. Or we'll be going after Christian Wilkins. Remember, all first-round picks from the Atlanta Falcons have a reason and rhyme. And I'm not just talking about needs. I'm talking about connections. Look at it. Dabo Swinney and Dan Quinn. Great relationship as friends, great relationships as head coaches, great ideas. They've been talking for years. We drafted Vic Beasley. Coincidence? I don't think so. Dan Quinn with a huge mark on the University of Florida. Knew Keanu Neal personally. Drafted Keanu Neal first round. Connection to that. Coincidence? I don't think so. Look at Takk McKinley. We drafted him in the first round. Had a connection to Mike Ulbrich, the linebackers coach for UCLA who started working for the Atlanta Falcons. That was the tip right there that you knew that we were going after Takk McKinley. I got that pick right that year. Look at Calvin Ridley. He fell to the Atlanta Falcons, and Sarkisian, part of the Atlanta Falcons staff, previously part of Alabama, said, that's my guy, I want him. The Falcons drafted Calvin Ridley. Was it the right draft pick? I'm not sure. Should we address defensive line? That's a question for another time. But think about that. There's always a rhyme and reason and a connection to why we're drafting somebody. And that's why I say, where's the connection to the University of Houston? Where is the connection to the University of Houston for Ed Oliver? It just doesn't make sense to me. Along the other plethora of things that I have been talking about Ed Oliver and how much I would love him to be the Michael Bennett of our group, if we haven't addressed the defensive tackle position and there's no connections to Ed Oliver outside of maybe a 30 visit or we're at his pro day, then there's no way. By the way, we highly, highly, highly value the Senior Bowl. I would not be surprised if we saw some seniors from the Senior Bowl drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. I believe we did it with Keanu Neal and Deion Jones. I believe we did it with those two. So there's your connections to Deion Jones right there. I believe that is the case. I might be talking out the side of my mouth. But we truly do go in there and have connections to every single draft pick that we have. So that's where I stand right now. So JY, I didn't want to dance around your question, but if it was between the two, like both positions have not been truly addressed in free agency, I would pick Wilkins and have people just abuse me on Twitter, scream at me that this is the worst pick ever. And I'll just smile and go, okay, whatever. At least we addressed what we were looking for, and the connection makes sense, and the need makes sense. That would be the same thing with Lawrence. That would be the same thing with Quentin Williams. The connection's there. Dan Quinn with Nick Saban. He's had connections with him, not strong ones, but ones nonetheless. It would make sense. Hal Snipes will get the last question of the day. Do we keep Italian Ice or Matt Money? And I really do believe that Matt Money Bryant is going to call a retirement party. And this will probably be his last year. It's too many injuries. He does have guaranteed money that he can make for next year. But why are we keeping Italian Ice on the roster? He's still on our roster, by the way. He's still on our roster. Italian Ice is still on the roster. He hasn't been moved. So that tells you right then and there that Matt Bryant's probably like, I'm kicking for the rest of this year, and then I'm done. I'm hanging it up. And that's why the Falcons made that move. Okay, we'll keep Italian Ice. He'll stay here. Lunatic Falcon with the very late come in. We're about to head over to Twitch. So if any of you have missed anything that we're doing right now, I'm heading over to Twitch right now. Unintentional Grounding, Twitch. Go check it out. We're going to be playing. I played Spider-Man yesterday. How about we go and play some Star Wars Battlefront? Let's go play some Star Wars Battlefront. Or some World of Tanks. We can do that. Giorgino Pantera is Italian Ice. That's his nickname. Giorgino. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for liking, sharing, commenting on this video, subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. You guys have done so much for me. I was on Vach Lombardi's show last night for his 30K episode. He just reached 30,000 subs. Probably be at 50,000 subs by the middle of next year. And I want you guys to share this content to everyone and say, hey, let's get Lieutenant Dan up there. Let's get him to 5. Let's get him to 6K. I want to be over 4K by the end of this year. My projection was 5K, but I don't think we're going to make it. So I'm lowering that expectation and saying, hey, let's try to get Lieutenant Dan to 4K here. Let's try to get Unintentional Grounding, the YouTube channel, to 4K. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of things that we're going to be doing over the next couple of days and next couple of weeks. And I want you guys to be all part of it. If you guys want to support this channel monetarily, month to month, throw down $1 in the Patreon. The $1 donations in the Patreon go a long way, and that's $12 in an entire year. So if you start Jan 1 of 2019, you're literally only paying $12 for all the content and all the work that I do here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch and Instagram and Twitter and all of those things. So you're more than welcome, if you feel so generous, to go over to the Patreon, drop $1 in there, you know? I know there are big ballers that usually are in the chat, and they will drop down some donations. I'm just telling all those people, you don't have to pay big money to be able to have fun with Lieutenant Dan. You can do it for free, or if you feel so generous, $12 a whole year. That's less than that's actually a little more than a Netflix subscription. And that is less than you going out and getting some, some lunch from some of your favorite restaurants. That is less money than, less money than a bottle of wine. And you won't have a headache afterwards. So you know what I'm saying? That's that craziness. Nonsense. That's that crazy stuff. Bada bing, bada boom. Hal Snipes gets the Julio dab. Donated $5 in the super chat. Thank you so much, Hal. I really appreciate that, buddy. Salute to you. And let me know, Hal, at me on Twitter if there's a certain video you'd like me to work on. I'm working on Roast Stackson's $20 donation video for the O-line and D-line vid. And I will have that out soon. It's acquiring the tape to get the best views and things of that nature. But I'll make a two-parter video basically on the best defensive lineman, the best offensive lineman for the Atlanta Falcons, in my opinion, for the coming draft. We'll see how that works out. But take it easy, guys. If you're not coming over to Twitch after this, I would really appreciate if you did. But I'm going over to Twitch. Link is in the description of this video right here. Twitch.tv/unintentional grounding. Click that link. Head right over there. Follow that channel. And then we've got a Discord, man. We've got a Discord where we talk some Falcons football all day, every day. We're talking from 12 in the afternoon to 12 midnight and all the hours in between. So if you feel like that would be something that you would want to do, you want to come in there, it's for free. There's a voice chat in there to talk with me personally. There's also several different forums in there, chats for college football, for NFL, for draft, and so on and so forth. So definitely go meet us over there and follow me, UNGR_show on Twitter and on Instagram. Y'all can go check those out. Posting pictures and having fun with you guys is one of my main goals. So my name's Lieutenant Dan. This was Unintentional Grounding live here from Orlando, Florida. I'm going to head out of here, go over to Twitch, chill out with those peeps over there. Hal Snipes, thank you for the donation. $5 donation. That was really, really nice of you. I really appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and head over and have some fun with the peeps on Twitch. Take it easy. Rise up. Stay grounded. And this is your boy, Lieutenant Dan, with nothing but the facts and the truth. Take it easy, y'all.